So today we're going to talk about a really big shift in education. It's called the Kuwait National Curriculum, or the KNC. And trust me, this isn't just about shuffling around some textbooks. It's a whole new blueprint for building the learners of tomorrow. Let's dive right in.
I mean, just stop and think about that for a second. The jobs people will have in 2040, the tech they'll be using, the global problems they'll be solving, we can barely even imagine them. So the billion-dollar question is, how on earth do you build an education system that gets kids ready for that world, not just ours?
Well, Kuwait's answer to that massive question is a total rethink of their educational framework. It's the Kuwait National Curriculum, and in this explainer, we're going to break down exactly what makes it tick.
Okay, so to really get the curriculum, you first have to understand the vision behind it. This whole thing didn't just appear out of nowhere. It's a key piece of a much larger national strategy.
See, the KNC is tied directly to something called Kuwait Vision 2035. The big goal here is to move towards a sustainable, knowledge-based economy. And to pull that off, you need people who are lifelong learners, who can innovate and who have those crucial future-ready skills, like digital literacy and adaptability.
So, that's the big picture dream. But how do you take a grand national vision and turn it into something that actually works in a classroom on a Tuesday morning? Well, let's take a look at the blueprint of the curriculum itself. At its core, the KNC is what's called a standards-based curriculum. Now that might sound a bit jargony, but the idea is actually pretty simple. You start with the end in mind, these big, ambitious goals for what every student should know and be able to do. And then you work backward, breaking those big goals down into smaller, clearer, and totally measurable targets for every single step of the way.
And this visual here, it lays it all out perfectly. Look over on the far left. You start with these super broad general standards that cover all 12 grades. Then, as you move to the right, you see how they get sharpened into curriculum standards, then into general learning outcomes for a specific grade, then unit outcomes, and bam, all the way down to a specific lesson learning outcome. It's how a massive goal becomes a clear, doable task for one single class period.
Now, this entire structure is held up by 6 foundational pillars. And what's really clever is how they all connect and support each other. It's not just a checklist. These pillars make sure the curriculum is world-class but also locally relevant, that it's focused on the future but also grounded in the best teaching methods we have today. It creates this complete, seamless journey for every student.
Okay, so we've got the vision and we've got the blueprint. Now for the really important part. How does all this theory actually get translated into tangible, real-world skills for students? This quote right here really gets to the heart of it. Everything in the KNC revolves around these super precise learning outcomes. Notice the wording, it's not about what the teacher will teach, it's about what the learner will be able to do. That is a huge, fundamental shift. It puts the student right at the center of everything.
And to make sure these skills are up to snuff globally, the curriculum lines up with international benchmarks, like the CEFR for languages. This table is a great example of how that works in practice. So you see, a primary school kid might be working on an I can introduce myself statement. But by the time they hit secondary school, that same path leads to being able to say, I can write analytical reports. It's this clear, step-by-step progression.
But it's not just about what students can do, it's about how they think. And for that, the KNC leans on a classic tool, Bloom's taxonomy. You can think of this pyramid as a ladder for thinking, designed to push students beyond just memorizing facts and up into higher levels of thinking. So let's break down that ladder. You start at the bottom with the basics, just remembering facts. Then you climb up a rung to applying that knowledge in a new way. Higher still, you're analyzing. You're drawing connections between ideas. And the absolute peak, the top of the ladder, is creating, producing something totally new and original. This is how you build critical and creative thinkers, not just human tape recorders.
All right, we've got the vision, the blueprint, and the skills. But what does this actually look like and feel like for a student on a daily basis? That brings us to our final section, the active classroom.
This slide pretty much says it all. It shows the massive pedagogical shift. Over on the left, you've got the old school passive model. The teacher lectures, students memorize, and you're either right or you're wrong. But the KNC model over on the right is all about active learning. It's student-driven. It's about solving problems together and discovering things. The teacher's role completely changes. They become more of a guide or a facilitator, not just the source of all information.
So how do you actually make a classroom active? Well, you use these really cool modern teaching methods. Things like project-based learning, where students might spend weeks investigating a real-world issue. or task-based language teaching, where the point isn't just to learn words, but to use those words to accomplish something real, like planning an event. It's all about learning by doing.
And that brings us full circle, right back to the beginning. From that huge national vision all the way down to a single activity in one classroom, every single piece of the Kuwait national curriculum is designed with one powerful goal in mind: to help develop skilled, creative, globally aware young people who are genuinely ready for whatever challenges the future throws at them.
So I'll leave you with this final thought. In a world that is changing faster than ever, what do you think is the single most important skill any student can learn? The KNC's answer is pretty clear. It's the ability to keep learning for your entire life. What a powerful idea to end on. Thanks so much for tuning in.